Hey there, everybody. This is Kristin from Teaching Balance, and I am here with you with this week's mindfulness meditation practice. We are in the final week of this month, focusing on rest and relaxation, and we've explored it in a variety of ways. And so, to wrap it up, because it's summer, I thought it would be interesting for us to talk a little bit about temperatures. So, let me back up and explain what I mean by that. The connection, I think, to what I'm proposing and this idea of rest and relaxation is when you give yourself the spaciousness and the freedom to have opportunities to rest and really relax. It's when we're in those sort of states of repose, if you want to get fancy, where it's always an opportunity just to tune in to how we're feeling. Now, certainly you could check in with the triangle of awareness, which, if you may recall, is noticing sensations and then thoughts and emotions, and that's always, a great opportunity to do that. But I'm thinking more specifically about the sensations piece, and in particular, just because this time of year, it feels like, it feels like a more obvious sense experience to really tune into temperatures. So, for example, even right now, it's summer. We cranked the air in the house before filming because I didn't want it to kick on and somehow create a distracting noise. And even though it was cool for some time, now I'm sitting here in, a blazer in front of two very, powerful filming lights. And I'm definitely starting to feel a little warm. Not uncomfortable. But as I was preparing to talk about this, I'm like, how am I feeling about temperatures right now? And actually, as I'm I'm wearing shorts, but you can't see that. I'm resting my hands on my knees and legs, and my skin actually feels kind of cool to the touch. But what's weird about that is that if my skin feels cool to the touch, that means my hands are warm, which they rarely are. Anyway, it's not about me. It's about you. And so the point that I want to make, or the invitation that I'd like to offer to you, is whenever you can, whether it's in those moments of repose or rest, or if it's just as you're going about your daily life, just noticing those temperatures. And by that, I mean, of course, when you, for example, I feel like the big shift in temperatures is always very noticeable. So when you go, for example, from being outside, walking around, into some kind of an air-conditioned space, whether it's like a store or whatever it might be, there's that, almost like wall of cool air that just sort of hits you. And just noticing what that feels like. Where do you feel it? It's probably mostly on your arms, whatever part of your arms are exposed, or maybe your legs if you're wearing shorts. And really just noticing that. And then, of course, the reverse of that, when you go from a cooler indoor experience, assuming that's the case for you right now as you're watching this, and going into the heat of summer. And what does that feel like? What does it feel like in the shade? What does it feel like in the sun? Where do you feel it? So you get the idea. All of these things where we're tuning into our physical sensations, and of course in this particular case it's about touch or feeling, and specifically talking about temperatures, it's just a wonderful opportunity to reground ourselves to the present moment. Because oftentimes we don't really think about it unless there was a real quality of discomfort. Either you were freezing inside and now you're outside and feel better because you're warming up, or you were just sweating and it was way too hot and now you're going into the cool to alleviate that discomfort. So those moments themselves are particularly I want to say dense, if you will, or chock full of sensation, and they're very easy to notice. And it's also interesting to notice it when it's not so obvious. So in the spirit of all of that, I don't know if I'm going to weave it in, but maybe if I notice myself feeling particularly warm while I'm sitting here with you guys, I may comment on it. So let's go ahead and take our seat. I know we don't always do all of the posture instructions, but I always think it's useful to be reminded that you want to try to sit upright. Sit upright. And I always like to roll my shoulders back. That just opens up that heart center and that chest, which is great for that deep breathing. Either closing the eyes or lowering the gaze. And if you want to play with spinal alignment, you've heard me talk about the vertebrae being similar to coins stacked one upon the other. If the shift is to one side or the other, they're not as self-supporting, and then it kind of goes down. So you want to align things so it feels self-supported. And then we don't talk about this as often, but really thinking about the spine going all the way up through the neck and into the back of the head. And to really elongate it, sometimes people find themselves meditating where they're sort of gazing upward in this almost genuflecting way. And that's fine, but I would encourage you to just slightly, not all the way down, of course, but just slightly drop your chin for the purpose of elongating that very top of the spine. If you haven't already, taking those deep breaths. And remembering if anything shifts or goes back to a less optimal posture, never beating yourself up about it or feeling bad. It's just one of those things where you notice, and if you'd like to, you can just shift back into that slightly more regal posture of sitting in a way that exemplifies your inherent dignity. So either resting your attention on the breath or the body or sensations associated with the breath or sounds. And of course, there's always open awareness where you just notice from moment to moment whatever is noticeable. And of course, that would also fall within the category of noticing temperature, if you care to. So let's sit together in silence for a while, and I'll check back in a few. you are interested in tuning into this whole noticing temperature piece, one thought that arose for me as I was sitting is, if nothing else, just check in with your hands. Noticing the temperature of the hands. Do they feel a little warm or a little cool or maybe just right? If there's air circulation that allows you to notice what the air feels like on the hands, that can be interesting. Right now my fingers are interlaced, so I'm noticing that makes them feel even warmer, as opposed to if they were laying or resting on some sort of material or other surface. And you can do this with your feet as well. By just playing with this idea of the temperature, if it's appealing to you. It's just another way to explore our present moment experience. So if you care to, for the last 2 minutes or so of our practice together, you can play with that. Or you can just continue to sit with your mind resting on whatever you choose for the anchor of your awareness until you hear that final bell. So let's sit in silence together. That's our 10 minutes. I think I kind of beat that topic to death. So I think that's it. I hope you had a good sit. And of course, as always, thank you so much for taking this time for yourself. And thank you for allowing me to accompany you on this journey. I will see you next week. Have a good one. Take care. Bye.